All right, looks like I've been given the go-ahead to start. Viewers have joined. Yay! Okie dokie. So yeah, I'm John David Birdall. I'm an Aspie writer, artist, musician, art educator, life skills educator, mental wellness presenter in Moorhead, Minnesota. And today I'm supposed to talk about, because I'm going to be talking about this actually in an upcoming series that I'm going to be teaching here, this subject, and the subject is empowering autistic individuals in the workforce. And when I begin to talk about that, let me start that. I do mention, well, what was brought up to me by Dr. Temple Grandin. And it was really great to speak with Dr. Grandin. And what was brought up was exposure, interest, and mentoring. Okay, so that's what I'm going to talk about today: exposure, interest, and mentoring. And that's what I tell parents. That's what I tell grandparents. That's what I tell guardians or staff about. You know, what can really help out an autistic individual is exposure, interest, and mentoring. So let me get right into it. Okay. So one of the most powerful tools in empowering autistic individuals in the workforce is exposure. It plays a crucial role in breaking down misconceptions and stereotypes that often surround autism. Many people have limited understanding of what it means to be autistic, and this lack of knowledge can lead to misunderstandings and biases in the workplace. Okay, so exposure works both ways, right? That's a point I really ought to make just immediately. Okay, so and by that I mean, you know, it's like autistic individuals, when they're exposed to a situation, or when they're exposed to, I guess, an arrangement or what, a scenario, what can really help, that just gives them so much information, you know. And a lot of individuals don't expose them to, I suppose, one sort of set of circumstances or another, because other individuals are not really certain how they're going to respond to them, you know. And so other individuals kind of take care of things for them or go through things for them, you know, to help them out. And I'm not just going to say that that's totally ableism, but I was just talking with an individual about this a little while ago, concerning, well, a contemporary fine arts museum in downtown Fargo here, because Moorhead, Minnesota is right next to Fargo, North Dakota. If anyone knows Fargo, there's been a movie about Fargo, there's been a TV series about Fargo. So I live right next to Fargo. And I was asking the question there, because they're going to have me consult on some of their programming and probably work in a DEI or diversity, equity, inclusion sort of capacity there at their organization. I had asked the question, why are disabled individuals not allowed to fail? You know, and I bring this up because exposure doesn't happen, you know, for a number of reasons, especially because other people, maybe family of the autistic individual or staff for the autistic individual, do believe that the individual will fail, when the individual is exposed to something. So they don't expose the individual to something. And it's like, well, how is the person supposed to learn if they can't interact with something, or someone? And so that's what I do mean when I ask the question, why are autistic people not allowed to fail? Whereas most, if we must say, able people or holistic people, or normative people or normal people, why are they allowed to fail? But people with a disability or a condition or a diagnosis aren't allowed to fail. So hopefully I don't put too many people on the spot or make them uncomfortable with that question or thinking about the answer to it. But yeah, so it works both ways. Exposure, it teaches the autistic individual, but it also teaches the community, about autism. So it's really, really great. And exposure can take many forms. It can be as simple as providing opportunities for autistic individuals, when we're talking about like family and staff, how they can provide exposure like for autistic individuals and I suppose for themselves. So yeah, providing opportunities for autistic individuals to showcase their skills and talents in the workplace. By allowing them to demonstrate their abilities, coworkers and employers can witness firsthand the valuable contributions they can make to a team or organization. Additionally, exposure can involve educating others about autism and dispelling common myths and stereotypes. This can be done through workshops, training sessions. Hey, this is a sort of training session, huh? Or even informal conversations. By providing accurate information and personal stories, misconceptions can be replaced with understanding and acceptance. Okay, and so that's how it works for the community, or how it can work, for the community, or work out really, really well. And it's of course exposure for the autistic individual. That's just going to allow them to experience so much, to gain so much, to have so much, of a sensory experience of, just so many lessons are involved when you actually just get to, interact, right? Engage with what's being talked about. And I found that's just one of the greatest teachers. One of the greatest teachers is just exposure. I tell people, it's like, if some people are looking for a fix for autism or a cure for autism, and I'm not saying I know the cure for autism, but one of the best ways to help out, right, and really educate an autistic individual is through exposure to different situations, to different, as I said, scenarios or arrangements. It can be really, really helpful. So next, interest, right? So we talked a little bit about exposure, and then we'll move on to interest. Okay, so when you expose an autistic individual, so what comes up in classes that I do teach, I get asked, okay, how do I find out like what job is best for my nephew or for my cousin who's autistic? And it looks like the individual, can work and is willing to, is excited about working. And so I bring up exposure, interest, and mentoring. Okay, so what I say is, okay, so what does it look like this person could do, to earn money? And what support themselves, and what maintain a certain level of independence. And what just recently came up was, oh, this individual is really into, or this one person is into diesel engines. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. Well, maybe you ought to expose the individual to some sort of, I don't know, about auto repair or installation or something like that, automotive business, or shop or something, and see, how that goes, allow it just to be very natural and just like, okay, this is this place. This is, what they do here. This is how they do it. This is how long it takes. This is how much you can earn. And if there's an interest, all right, so now we're moving on to interest after exposure. It's vital. It's absolutely vital to find out what is the person enthusiastic about doing or passionate about doing. Okay, and so cultivating interest and passion is a necessary step in empowering autistic individuals in the workforce. Recognizing and nurturing individual strengths not only allows them to excel in their chosen field, but also boosts their confidence and self-esteem. One of the first steps in this process is to identify the unique interests and talents of autistic individuals. While some may have a natural inclination towards technology or numbers, that definitely comes up quite a bit, others may exhibit exceptional artistic abilities, like myself, or a keen eye for detail. By acknowledging and understanding these strengths, employers and mentors can provide opportunities that align with these interests. Okay. And so that is just to find a job that aligns with the interests that someone, it's not so much that the individual doesn't have to learn anything at all. Okay. That's not what I'm talking about. Let's not just find a job that's incredibly easy and right. Path of least resistance, so the individual not so much doesn't grow, but doesn't have to work too hard. It's like, yeah, let's not find a job like that, but let's find a job that really fits in, with, or I suppose corresponds with, the person's, fascinations and already, established wealth of knowledge about a subject. You're just setting them up for success. You're setting the person up for success when you find something just with every human being, it ought to be brought up. It's like most people do really, really well with something they know something about or a lot about. It just seems to, work out well, or be ideal. And so that depends on the individual, though. Like, what is the interest? You really have to get to know the person, get to know the autistic person to find out, okay, what are these interests? Okay. And I suppose that's a spectrum, on the spectrum. And again, I do believe I ought to bring up like what is the spectrum in case some people don't know, or at least how I describe the autism spectrum. Okay, because it's autism spectrum disorder. A lot of people know the term, right, the spectrum, but they sometimes don't know what they're talking about. And in no way to judge them or insult them or be overly critical of them. But it's a good idea to know that we're talking about the spectrum of symptoms or aspects that the individual has, with an autism diagnosis. And so I just presented at a church, a Unitarian church, 2 days ago, in the morning here. Yeah, it was a Sunday morning, and I was talking about what the spectrum, like where I sit on the spectrum or where I'm at on the spectrum, and I describe it as a planet. Okay, some people think, the spectrum's a straight line, and it's more like the spectrum is, and then also they'll talk about it being a wheel, but I describe it as a planet. Okay, and when you've met one person, with autism, we've heard that phrase, when you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. And a lot of people, they hear autism or they hear the spectrum and they don't really know what's being discussed. A lot like maybe saying, a person's from South America. It's like a lot of people don't know what it's like in South America, and it's like when you've met one person from South America, you've met one person from South America. You ought not to generalize too much, and so I describe it as the spectrum is sort of like a planet, and I live here on this planet where another individual perhaps lives here on this planet, and we're not exactly the same just because we have autism. We're going to behave differently. We're going to respond differently. We're going to react differently. We're going to be interested in different things. And so that seems to help some people out. It's a little more concrete. I may just bring in a globe in some classes, and put pins in it, or something like that. Anyway, moving on about interest. Creating a supportive environment is crucial in nurturing these passions. Autistic individuals often thrive in structured and predictable settings. So it is important to establish clear expectations and routines. This allows them to focus on their areas of interest without unnecessary distractions or overwhelming sensory stimuli. A lot of people think, and I just found this out in the classes I've taught, in the presentations or sessions that I've offered and lectures too, that autistic individuals need special treatment, or they think they need special treatment, and that they're not going to succeed, or that they're not going to do well without that, that they're, I think it gets called orchid children or something like that. And I do believe that's a misconception right there. It's like I do believe every human being needs, certain conditions to thrive, and just finding out what those are and making certain a person can access, or reside in those conditions, is once again like necessary and important and vital and crucial. And really cool. And so I disagree that that they're orchid children. I do believe that they're dandelion children, that they can grow anywhere, as long as there's some sunlight, or as long as there's some soil, or something like that. I myself am a dandelion child. I grow anywhere. And so it's just making certain that there are some conditions for growth, okay, and definitely just what benefits the individual, and so that's how I dispel some of that. It's like, no, I don't know if they need, like special. And then some people mean that in a sort of, I don't know about insulting way, but in sort of a limiting way, or it's just not favorable the way that some people are saying that, where it's like, oh, this person needs special treatment. In fact, I've worked with some like students and clients who just can't stand that word, on that topic, like special. They just can't. It's like when they hear it, they just have this negative sort of, it has a connotation for them, or there's this like negative association that they've got with it, where they hear special. It's like, just don't say that word. I don't need it. I've heard it way too much, or, ouch. So hopefully that kind of changes in the future. So I ought to move on to mentoring because I've got about 30 minutes here. And the last session I did, there wasn't a whole lot of time for some questions. And so I really ought to provide some time for questions. And so let me move on to mentoring. Okay, so we've exposed the individual or the person, client, whatever we need to say, a responsible party. One company that I work for calls the people who are being worked with the responsible parties. And I think that's really great, or RPs. Okay, so there's been exposure. All right, exposure to a type of job. Okay, and then now the person believes that, oh wow, okay, there's an interest in doing, right, or in working that sort of, or working at that sort of job, or working at that sort of place. Okay, and or company, working at that sort of company. Okay, so now what happens? We move through exposure, and there was interest, and now mentoring. Okay, mentoring plays a crucial role in empowering autistic individuals in the workforce. Okay, absolutely. It provides them with guidance, support, and a safe space to grow and develop their skills. Autistic individuals often face unique challenges in the workplace, right? Such as difficulty with social interactions, sensory sensitivities, and communication differences. And that's really great, communication differences. Having a mentor who understands and appreciates these challenges can make a significant difference in their professional journey. One of the key benefits of mentoring for autistic individuals is the opportunity to build self-confidence. A mentor can provide encouragement and reassurance, helping them navigate any obstacles they may have by offering guidance and sharing personal experiences. Mentors can help autistic individuals develop strategies to overcome challenges and build resilience. Okay, so I myself am a mentor in one sort of, I guess, fashion or another, and not just like clothes fashion. That's me being literal minded right there, but in one way or another. And like one way I become a mentor, or that I do mentor autistic individuals, and then just learners too, learners or inexperienced individuals as well, novice perhaps artists, or novice sort of makers and creators and entrepreneurs too. One of the ways is being an instructor. Another way is being a presenter. Sure. Another way is being a direct support professional. Another way is being a tutor, and I know that's kind of instructor, but sometimes, the titles, the responsibilities shift a little bit, with the title. Like a tutor doesn't teach in a classroom, and so the setting is a little different. Sometimes I'll be in the home with an individual or with a tutee as a tutor, instead of in a much more formal, perhaps, setting. So, tutoring becomes a lot more informal, a lot more personal, and a lot more intimate sometimes. And so you just got to make certain, that you're following certain rules, in the person's home, making certain that you're, doing your job, suiting up and showing up and doing the most good right now with the people around you, and making certain that, the person is learning what they need to learn, to survive and thrive and go on and achieve so much. And so, yeah, I do mentor in these situations. I do demonstrate quite a bit, and I do model quite a bit of behavior or types of discussions, or how types of discussions can go, or how types of actions or tasks can go and be completed. Okay, and that's what I've learned. And sometimes that definitely helps me too. And I'll admit that I don't know something. What some people say, it's a gift to be a mentor and a presenter too. And let me say thank you so much for allowing me to present on this type of topic about empowering autistic individuals in the workforce. you know um it's really it's really, I don't know about dire, but it's really, there's a need for especially this type of conversation now. I don't know about way more than ever, but more than ever, really right now, it's like, okay, how do we make certain that people can maintain and sustain, their own lives and own lifestyles, and really, again, build so much self-confidence by doing so much and by being doers and by being workers, and having that sense of feeling, that sense of satisfaction, and that self-esteem, definitely that self-esteem in knowing that I did this, and I earned this, and now I have this, and now I am just, I don't know, so very regular in a certain way, and so very typical, and so very definitely, empowered. And so, yeah, I do model so much, and I do show so much, and it takes a certain type of strength. I do agree, do a certain type of strength and a certain type of courage to, I suppose, admit you don't know something, like in public, in that situation, when you're modeling something, or when you're demonstrating or showcasing something, like paying for groceries, or like driving a car, or like engaging in chit chat. Because some of the individuals, some of the students I've worked with, and some of the clients I've worked with, they just don't understand just light, conversation, that kind of superficial conversation, that, to them, that kind of, and to quote, that sort of pointless conversation, that sort of meaningless conversation, like talking about the weather, like talking about sports, like talking about a favorite color, or how a person slept, that doesn't seem, germane to what's going on, when actually, and this is one of the things, here's an example of me mentoring, on in that sort of case, or to be specific, in that sort of situation, where it's kind of like, why am I supposed to talk about the weather? Well, when you're talking about the weather, when you're having this sort of, when you're making small talk, okay, what you're actually doing, or one of the rewards of small talk, okay, one of the purposes of small talk is you're finding out, okay, how much can the person actually handle in this situation? In this, we're going to be working on a task, we're going to be working on a job, or we're going to be, accomplishing something together, or around each other, and so when you have this sort of small talk, you're kind of taking the temperature. That's what I tell them. You're taking the temperature of the person, and of the circumstance, and you're finding out, okay, like, how much can this person talk about? How much can this person remember? How much can I remember? You're just, you're sorting some things out before you get to, if we must call it, big talk, where it's, okay, this needs to be done. You start talking about the steps and the stages of something, the job that needs to be done, and if someone has, and this is like, not to, if someone has issues with working memory, and not really knowing, okay, or not really, let's not just jump to deficit, but it's like, not having a memory, or an amount of retention that allows them to, focus on or concentrate on, this step, this step, this step, this step, this step, like, I don't know, 10 steps, maybe for them, their strength is that they can really focus on, really, really, nail, like 3 steps, that they've been given, and then move on to another project, instead of step, 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 step. And so what small talk does is you're finding out, okay, here's this subject, and without going too fast, of course, but, in a very, again, natural, in a very human, way, in a very regulated sort of way, you're just talking about, it's like, okay, this was the morning, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and you can glean, and you can pay attention to, and you can really accept, okay, this is how this person, works. This is what this person believes is important or crucial or pertinent, and that's what small talk can do. And that's what I tell, clients that I have and learners that I have, or responsible parties that I do have. And it starts to make sense. It's like, oh, that's the function of small talk. No one actually explained what the function, and as a mentor, it just opens their eyes. There's an epiphany, like, oh, okay, it's a tool, or it can be a tool, and to allow me to, or to, I don't know, help me to, yes, definitely do this job, and the connection just wasn't being made. And so I found that that's just really helpful. And for me, I never, if I must be personal, I never really had, as far as I know, any problem with small talk, or chit chat or something like that, or I don't know about idle conversation or something like it. But it was just, when people are in close proximity to me, I just acknowledge them, and I just begin discussing things. And I was saying before this, I've got 20 minutes, so I think I'll go another 10 minutes and I'll ask perhaps about questions. Although, are there any questions right now? Does anyone have any or examples that they believe that they're supposed to offer of, like, exposure and interest and mentoring, and empowering certain individuals or certain people in the workforce or in the workplace? No, no question. Oh, we don't have any questions yet. Okay, great. I was about to say, oh, no questions. Okay, I'm moving on then. I tried. There we go. There we go. Mentoring also plays a vital role in fostering a positive work environment that is inclusive and understanding. A mentor can educate colleagues and employers about autism, promoting awareness and acceptance. By advocating for the unique strengths and talents of autistic individuals, mentors can help create a workplace culture that values neurodiversity and embraces different ways of thinking. Okay? That's like, I suppose that mentor can be that bridge. Again, exposure works both ways. Interest, can work both ways. Knowing, okay, this autistic individual is interested, in this, or in this, I suppose, portion or part of this job, or of this workplace or work environment. All right. But also, other individuals, by seeing what this person is interested by, they can really start to begin to, think about, oh, gosh, what am I interested in? It allows for this kind of flourishing, or this flowering or blossoming, right, of positive, sort of ideas or positivity. And it's really, when you start to talk, because I don't know how to experience interest myself. All right. That's just, I had to learn that, when I was being diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. I did have to learn that it's like, oh wow, I don't experience emotions or feelings, and interest is definitely, a feeling, in the same way that others do, especially that the family that I've got, or the friend group that I did have, or colleagues or coworkers, or fellow students. Because at that time, when I was being diagnosed, I was finishing up college, and I got a degree, and or a BA, a bachelor's, and so for me, interest is very different. A lot of the time it's really kind of non-existent. Interest, by that I mean it's not like a tangible sort of feeling, and I know some feelings aren't tangible at all. I know some of them, most of them, are kind of intangible, or maybe subjunctive, or it has no visual. It can't be visually represented, or seen. You know, but for me, interest is more, oh, it's not as, there's not as much work in doing this as there is with something else. So there's not as much maybe problem solving or deduction with it. And so, yeah, I will eat this instead of that because I don't have to think about it as much, or I will watch this instead of that, or I will do this instead of that because it'll be sort of more efficient, or maybe quicker. I do hope that I enjoy it, but enjoyment, I don't know how to feel that again innately. And so I don't know, take things easily and take things slowly and take things carefully, and just make certain that, no one's injured, no one's harmed in what I do. And gosh, so it's like, how do you find out what interests are for autistic individuals? And so that's how I found that out for myself. I talked about it, and learning, like, oh wow, so yes, I'm internalizing a lot of this differently than other individuals are. even other autistic individuals. Some of them can feel so strongly. Some of the autistic friends that I've got or colleagues that I've got, they feel so very strongly. And for me, I don't have that emotional experience. And that doesn't mean I don't have a conscience. I definitely have a conscience. That's what kind of compensates, I must say, for not having the emotional experience. I have a more ethical life than a more moral life, if that sort of makes sense. I do live a moral life, but morality, I've noticed, is driven by, gosh, and I'm getting off on, or into I'm getting into certain areas, but this is how complex it can be, talking about these sorts of topics or talking about these sorts of concepts when you're trying to find out, what is an interest. When you're definitely trying to, make certain that your autistic family member or that your autistic client, or autistic ward or individual ought to be, helped out or supported in a certain way. You have to, there has to be a certain level of engagement, and to find out, it's like, does this person, have this relationship to this feeling? Does this person have this relationship to this idea? And that's how we can support so many people, is by being patient and by asking questions, and by actively listening. Really, really, it's just so important. And I do believe that's a gift, is people who actively listen and want to actively listen. That's amazing. So let me get back to mentoring. So mentoring programs can also play a vital role in creating inclusive work environments. Pairing autistic individuals with mentors who have experience in the field can provide valuable guidance, support, and opportunities for growth. Mentors can offer insights into navigating workplace dynamics, addressing challenges, and building confidence. This mentorship not only benefits the individual, but also helps create a supportive network within the organization. And that's that would be another session or another presentation in and of itself, how to build a network, and how to scaffold for autistic individuals, and basically for every human being too. But it's just, as I had said, setting a person up for success, talking about, okay, how can we put everything in place, so everything just works for the individual, and so much that the individual doesn't learn anything or anything else, doesn't grow anymore, or doesn't have to work too hard, or be too exhausted or too drained. I mean, that's just a truth for every human being. Is like, every human being ought not to work too hard, but it's like making certain that every sort of, what I said, tool and instrument and discussion, everything, every every I don't know about conceivable, every conceivable sort of object or subject that the person, may need to accomplish the task, is just sort of at hand, or, is something that can be accessed, and I suppose I'm talking about accessibility, moving, more towards, it's like, okay, can this person like literally reach something in the workspace? Can this person, literally traverse a distance? Can this person, get up those stairs or get to that room? But then also, yes, will this like, are there, friend group, are there, I was about to say friend groups, but are there, concerning workplace dynamics, are there, sort of friends and best friends and buddies and, people who have certain jokes that they're telling, and certain types of jokes, and certain stories, that they're telling, or certain, I don't know, competitions that are going on. Are they competitive, with each other in a certain way, or in a particular way? And so to explain some of these things, okay, so it's like, and not as if the person was blind, but may not be seeing it right away, or may not be aware of it, because of, I don't know, maybe a hypersensitivity, or maybe hyposensitivity. That's me. I'm hyposensitive to things. I don't know how to be worried. I don't know how to be scared. And in fact, I don't know how to be hurt. My brain doesn't do ow, and so I don't know to focus on some things because they hurt, and so for me, I had to learn. Definitely, I didn't just expose myself to injurious or painful, painful sources of stimuli, right? But I did, engage quite a bit and find out, oh, 10 minutes. Okay, great. Yeah, and that's what I've got on this timer too. And so I guess I'm getting back to exposure as well. It's like that's how I learned so much was I exposed myself to, elements or aspects, facets of this real world to find out, okay, how do I naturally, how do I biologically, physically respond to them, but also intellectually respond and hopefully emotionally respond. And that's what mentors can help out with, as exposure is continuing, as interests are continuing to be found, or delineated or discovered, yeah, a mentor, or mentoring sort of programs, within companies can definitely just build upon those types of experiences or those types of um, um, yeah, elements, as I had said. So there we go. Overcoming communication, structured communication systems. Yeah, I guess I could. Sensitivities in the workplace. I'll talk about that one. Okay, to create a sensory-friendly workplace, right? So I've got, right, I'll do this for about 5 minutes and then we'll see if there's any more questions. So to create a sensory-friendly workplace, it is essential to understand and accommodate these sensitivities. Providing a quiet and calm workspace can help minimize distractions and sensory overload. This can be achieved by creating designated quiet areas where employees can retreat to when needed, or using noise-canceling headphones to block out excessive noise. Adjusting lighting is another important consideration. Bright fluorescent lights can be overwhelming for some autistic individuals. So opting for softer, natural lighting or offering adjustable lighting options can greatly improve their comfort and productivity. And in fact, an organization that I am a part of, I do that. I make classrooms sensory friendly. An organization that I'm a part of, a board member for, Red River Valley Asperger Autism Network. We have movie Mondays, and so we conduct individuals, or we do have events that go on at movie theaters here in Moorhead and Fargo, and we make them sensory friendly experiences where we talk to each sort of goer, each participant. We talk to each participant and we find out, okay, is this too loud, is this too bright? And so we make certain that there's a compromise that kind of fits every person, like the brightness, the volume, the making certain seating, making certain they're seated where they think they're supposed to be, which in the dark, or if it is kind of dark, the mutually agreed upon sort of light level of the room, it's a little dark for that individual or for that person. We make certain that, they're at least seated near an exit that can help them out, get to visit the restroom, to purchase concessions and all that, or to purchase snacks or something like that. And so doing that in the workplace, finding out, is this the optimal sort of situation, or is this the optimal set of conditions for this, person, which I was about to say it seems like a no-brainer, but it just seems, like that just makes a lot of sense to do that sort of thing, to make certain that just the job gets done. Yes, hopefully there's, personal comfort absolutely is acknowledged, but also that the job gets done. There we go, building a more inclusive future. Okay, so number one, educate. So we're talking about building a more inclusive future, all right? And that requires collective effort from individuals and organizations alike. By taking specific steps, we can empower autistic individuals and create a workforce that values neurodiversity. Okay, so number one, educate yourself. Take the initiative to learn more about autism and neurodiversity. Familiarize yourself with the challenges and strengths that autistic individuals bring to the table. This knowledge will help dispel misconceptions and biases, enabling you to create a more inclusive environment. Number two, promote awareness and acceptance. Use your platform to raise awareness about autism and educate for acceptance. Share success stories of autistic individuals in the workforce to inspire others and challenge stereotypes by promoting a culture of acceptance. You can help create an environment where autistic individuals feel valued and supported. Number three, provide sensitivity training. Offer training sessions to your employees to increase their understanding of autism and how to effectively support their neurodiverse colleagues. Sensitivity training can help foster a more inclusive and understanding workplace where differences are celebrated and accommodated. Number four, implement accommodations. And so that's kind of just, I help people out a little bit so they can do their jobs, or so that the job can get done. Work with autistic employees to identify and provide the necessary accommodations that will enable them to thrive in their roles. This may include flexible work hours, modified communication methods, or creating a quiet and sensory-friendly workplace. Number 5, foster mentorship programs. Establish mentorship programs that pair autistic individuals with experienced professionals who can provide guidance and support. Mentors can help navigate workplace challenges. Okay? Let me repeat that. Mentors can help navigate workplace challenges. Also, offer career advice and provide a safe space for autistic individuals to discuss their goals and aspirations. And number 6, okay, and this is the last one. Number 6, collaborate with autism advocacy organizations, because they're going to know a lot. Okay, partner with organizations that specialize in autism advocacy and support. By collaborating, you can tap into their expertise and resources to create impactful initiatives that promote neurodiversity and inclusion. Together, you can strive towards a more equitable and inclusive future. It is essential that we recognize the unique talents and abilities of autistic individuals and provide them with the opportunities and support they need to thrive in the workforce. Okay, so there's a bit of that. And I know hopefully I didn't speed through too much of that, but are there any questions right now? And these are great tips. I bring these up, and I will be bringing these up 2 days from now. I'm going to be working with, as I had said, this contemporary fine arts institution or organization here in Fargo called Plains Art Museum. All right, I had actually worked there a while ago, right out of college. And I did a pretty great job. And as I was beginning to be diagnosed with autism, I started talking about it a bit there, and that made people very, very uncomfortable. Okay, so no questions. So I'll just finish up with, the personal experience I had. Now, how things have changed, how I've changed things here. And again, thank you so much for allowing me to be an agent of change, or a difference maker by offering these types of sessions for individuals to check out now or in the future. We'll get in touch with you in case. So yeah, if there are any questions, there could be emails or something like, or someone can email me or just reach out. But yeah, so I worked at this art museum, and people there just did not really understand what autism was, what autism is, especially my own autism. Of course, I didn't know how to explain or talk about all of it. But they just started discriminating, making certain I couldn't attend meetings, making certain I couldn't, participate, making certain that I couldn't, be involved, or that I wasn't included. They were excluding more than they were including. And I started talking about this with others, and they'd said, it sounds like they're just waiting till you quit, which does really happen, just kind of pushing me out. Or maybe sort of rejecting me. So I did become a certified caregiver, mandated reporter, and an art educator, much more of an art educator. And I just did a really good job. I just made certain that, as I say, I did the most good right now with the people around me, and this museum saw what I was doing in our community, in our town, in our neighborhoods. Okay, I was showing them that not so much that they were wrong, but they were a little misguided, and a little misinformed, maybe a lot misinformed, or misinformed in a big way. And I just I showed them, again, I modeled, what was good behavior, what was a good example, and how to meet a need, in our community. And now I'm working with them. I've become a consultant. I've become I will become a type of employee there, a DEI or diversity, equity, inclusion, just an individual who can offer a type of perspective and make certain that inclusivity is definitely, sort of promoted. Last 2 minutes. Thank you so much. And so, yeah, and that's what I've got on this timer. I've got a timer right here. I started it just to make certain, things wound down or did wind up when they were supposed to and how they were supposed to. And so definitely, it's like, I do not experience low self-confidence or low self-esteem. I don't know how to feel apprehensive or hesitant, but I know some other people do. And one of the ways that you persist, one of the ways that you persevere is just continuing, is just, making certain if you know in your gut, this is what I'm good at, this is what I can do, and if people just aren't allowing you to do it, or if it seems like they're not allowing you to do it anyway. There are some situations where you don't you just ought not to wait for permission. Just go do a good job, and don't fit in, fill out is what I say. Don't fit in, fill out, and just make certain that other individuals, that you can belay or pull them up. Once you've achieved a certain level of success, pull others up and have them join you and just succeed and succeed and succeed. But definitely just try. Okay. And there's going to be some resistance, there's going to be some friction, and there's going to be some trouble, but that's real life too. Just try and try and try and do and do and do. And I promise you, if you believe it, if you believe in yourself, if you believe in your abilities, you will see it. You will see success. Okay. You will see prosperity. You will see happiness too. So thank you so much for allowing me to present, today, or for allowing me to offer this session. And if there are questions in the future, go ahead and reach out, and I'll answer as many as I can, as often as I can. Here. Here we go. Okay, ending Facebook Live. Okay, goodbye.